Hello, hope you're doing well tonight. Make sure you're comfortable. Turn off the lights. Put on one earbud. And if you enjoy these real horror stories, don't forget to subscribe, tap the bell, and leave a like. He says what he saw that night still haunts him, and after hearing it, you'll understand why. This story was sent to me by someone named Travis. Let's hear it in his own words. People still call it obligeny. I've looked it up a dozen times over the years and never once found it on a map. Not in county records, not in state archives. Nothing. I'm not sure if that was ever its official name or just what the locals called it. But I swear to you, the place exists. You just won't find it by looking. Not anymore. It's not really a town. It's more like a stretch of dead land in the middle of nowhere, hidden behind the trees off an old highway that nobody uses anymore. And when I say dead, I mean it. The woods always have something buzzing or chirping or rustling. There's nothing alive out there, no birds, no squirrels, not even mosquitoes. And if you've ever spent time in the South, you know how unnatural that is. But not obligeny. It's quiet. The worst kind of quiet. The kind that feels wrong. There's this body of water out there, too. It's not quite a lake. Not really a pond. It's just a weird patch of still water with no name, no current, and nothing living in it. Back in the day, or so I've heard, it used to be full of life. Bass, perch, frogs, all that. But that was decades ago. Now it's just black water. The stories say something went wrong out there. The theories vary, but no one really talks about it anymore. They just give you a look if you bring it up, like you're re-saying something you shouldn't tea. Some say a military test site contaminated it. Others say it's an old chemical dump that never got cleaned up. Radiation, sinkholes, buried pipelines. But what I do remember clearly is Billy. You'd always see him hanging around the gas station or stumbling out of the Dollar General, muttering to himself and laughing at nothing. Everyone in town knew Billy. He was the harmless kind of drunk old guy, maybe in his late 60s back then. Nobody took him seriously. Until that night. I was at the diner when it happened. Billy walked in, soaked up to his knees, jeans dripping, hands shaking so hard he couldn't even hold the door open. Not in the dead zone. He knew better than that. He'd found a little bend in the river about half a mile upstream, where the water still flowed and the fish still bit. No slurring. His eyes weren't bloodshot. Just ... empty. Like something had hollowed him out. It swam across to the other side, and then it did something Billy couldn't explain. His face was pale like he'd seen a ghost, but worse. Except it didn't move like any animal he'd ever seen. Its limbs bent the wrong way. Its back shifted and swayed like it was built wrong. He looked like he'd been somewhere no one was meant to go. And the weirdest part, he wasn't drunk. No smell. He sat down in the corner booth and told us what he'd seen. Billy said he went night fishing like he did sometimes. It was quiet that night. Too quiet. Around midnight he heard something splash downstream. At first he thought maybe it was a deer or a wild pig. But then he saw it. Something was crawling down the far bank, slowly hunched, like a boar or a big animal. Then it stepped into the water. No sound, no struggle. It moved smooth, like it belonged there. It stood up, on two legs. He said it rose out of the water like a man, tall and lean. Its arms hung low and long. Its back straightened, and it just walked calmly up the riverbank and disappeared into the trees. Didn't look around, didn't run, didn't even seem to notice him. Just vanished. He didn't grab his rod, didn't pack up, didn't even take his tackle box. Billy sat there frozen, cigarette burned down to his fingers, line still slack in the water. He just walked away, right back into town, in the dark, soaking wet. Now, look, Billy wasn't exactly the most credible guy. People laughed it off, said he'd finally snapped. But I was there that night. I remember the way his voice dropped when he talked about it standing up. I remember how pale he was. I'd seen him drunk, angry, loud, ... but I'd never seen him scared. That was real fear. A few of us cleaned the place out, and in the corner of his closet we found his old tackle box, still covered in river mud. After that night, he never went near that part of the river again, wouldn't even drive down the road that led there. He told me once, outside the store, that the whole place felt sick, that it had eyes, that whatever he saw, it had seen him first. Billy passed away a few years later, alone in his trailer. Inside, scribbled on the lid in black marker, were 4 words. There's something in there. No one fishes that spot anymore. No one talks about Aborigine. And if you ever find it, I suggest you turn around before something finds you first. Hey, if you enjoy these true horror stories, don't forget to subscribe my channel Night Fright, tap the bell, and leave a like. This next story was sent to me by someone named Lucas. He says it has been stuck in his mind for years. And there, one person in his life who still refuses to talk about what really happened. Here's what he shared with me. A confused memory, maybe even a hallucination. This happened when I was 4 years old, and I've gone back and forth over the years trying to decide whether it was real or just some kind of strange dream. But the thing is, it never faded. But this one stayed sharp. Too sharp. Like a scar that didn't quite heal. And what really messes with me is that my grandma, who was with me that day, never brings it up. Not once, not in passing. Not even when I've tried asking her directly. Most memories from when you're that young tend to blur out with time, right? And believe me, I've tried. Not a single cloud in the sky. Just that summer stillness where everything feels heavy and slowed down. My grandma had a good bit of land out there. She was, and still is, a known-sense kind of woman. Not the kind to entertain ghost stories or superstitions. A medium-sized mutt with a sandy coat and a calm personality. Stowers, I don't remember the breed. Just that she was smart. Smarter than most people I knew. She never barked without reason, never begged. Always acted like she knew exactly what was going on. She worked hard, raised kids, took care of the land. If something couldn't be touched or fixed or eaten, it wasn't worth thinking about. Some patchy woods, a dry creek bed that only ran when it stormed hard, and a big empty field out back behind the house. We lived down in south-central Arkansas, near the Louisiana border. She owned the place and lived in it all her life. So when she told me we were going for a little walk that morning, I was excited. Just me, her, and the dog. We left mid-morning with a picnic basket and walked across the field and through the dry creek bed toward the far pasture. It was hot and quiet. There was this big cedar tree near the edge of the far field. My grandma always called it her favorite, said it had been there longer than she had. It was wide and tall with thick branches that gave off the best kind of shade, cool and earthy. We laid out a blanket under it and started eating lunch. She spun in tight circles, snapping her head toward the direction we came from. Something was wrong. I had a PB&J with the crusts cut off, sitting there with my legs crossed and the dog curled up beside me. Everything was peaceful. She kept glancing toward the tree line, muttering something under her breath. I didn't understand the words. They were too soft, too fast. But I knew that whatever was out there had rattled her, till the dog shot to her feet. She started barking like she'd lost her mind. It's not playful barking. This was full-on growling, teeth bared, hackles up. And she knew it before we did. My grandma stood up fast, grabbing the basket with one hand and pulling me toward her with the other. It was too tall, too broad across the shoulders. Its skin, or whatever covered it, was a dull matte gray. No hair, no shine. Just a smooth, dead surface that absorbed the light instead of reflecting it. Then I saw it, about 50 yards away, near the edge of the trees, where the creek bed had turned to dust. Something stepped out of the woods. I swear to you, it wasn't there, and then it was. No sound, no movement before. It just appeared, like it had been waiting in a pocket of shadow we didn't notice. And it wasn't human. It walked on 2 legs, but it wasn't shaped right. It didn't make a sound. It didn't charge or roar or do anything dramatic. Like it just stood there watching. My grandma didn't hesitate. She grabbed me, lifted me up against her chest, and ran. Instead, she veered toward the cedar tree, the only real shelter nearby. The dog sat right beside us, panting hard, her ears still perked. But she wasn't panicking anymore. The dog bolted beside us, still growling low, but no longer barking. Like she'd decided this wasn't something she wanted to fight. She just wanted to get away. She didn't run back toward the house, which would have taken us across an open field and left us completely exposed. Like something had just passed by us but couldn't reach us anymore. I remember pressing my back against the rough bark and breathing in the smell of cedar, trying to focus on that and not what I had just seen. My grandma sat there beside me, gripping the picnic basket like a shield, staring off toward the trees without blinking. I asked her once what happened that day, and she brushed me off, said I must have been dreaming. But I know I wasn't. It stuck with all three of us. We reached the tree and collapsed beneath it. My grandma set me down but didn't speak. Neither was I. Because whatever it was, it didn't follow. The air felt still. Charged eventually, after what felt like forever, we walked back home. Like we'd wandered too close to a doorway we weren't meant to find, and something had stepped through. We never really talked about it. Even years later, she'd only ever mentioned that old cedar tree with a strange look on her face. I saw it, and more than that, I saw how scared she was, and I'd never seen her scared of anything before or since. The dog lived for another 10 years, sweetest animal you ever met. Never barked like that again, and what once. Whatever happened that day, some people tell me it was Bigfoot. Others say maybe it was just someone in a costume or some animal we misread. But I know what I saw. I know what I felt under that cedar tree. It wasn't just a strange creature in the woods. It felt like something had gone wrong in that place. And for one awful moment, it had seen us too. Hey there. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and drop a like if these stories keep you up at night. This one was sent in by someone named Kyle. He said it started with a dream. But what really shook him was learning his father had the exact same one. Here's what he told me. I used to call it the lizard man dream, but even that didn't really explain how wrong it felt. That makes it sound cartoony, like something from a comic book. For most of my childhood and well into my early teens, I had this one recurring nightmare. It was always the same, like a movie playing over and over in my head, except every time I closed my eyes, I knew what was coming, and I couldn't stop it. It wasn't just a lizard man, but this thing. This thing was tall, gaunt, covered in what looked like wet, mottled skin that shimmered faintly like oil under a streetlight. Its eyes were massive, perfectly round and glassy, with long, vertical pupils that glowed the way a cat's eyes catch headlights at night. It had long limbs, long fingers, and it never made a sound. But somehow, I always knew it could see me. I could sense it trying to figure out where I was, like it was searching my thoughts. I don't mean that in the usual nightmare way, where something is chasing you and you feel watched. I mean it literally saw through my eyes. The nightmare would always start the same way. I'd be hiding somewhere in a closet, under a bed, crouched in the dark corner of a basement. I never knew how I got there, just that I was always already hiding, breath held, muscles tense. The creature would be outside the room, walking slowly, its feet making no sound on the floor, and then I'd do something stupid, peek through the blinds, or crack the closet door to check if it was still there. The second I did that, it would stop. I turned its head directly toward me, because now it had seen what I was seeing, and then it would come for me. It didn't charge. It didn't scream. It would just start walking, calm and steady, like it had all the time in the world. I'd panic, burst out of my hiding place and run to another one, slamming a door, squeezing behind furniture, and the pattern would start all over again. Every movement I made, every breath, every choice to look or shift positions, it mattered. It was watching. Always. It was like a twisted game of hide and seek, except the more I hid, the better it got at finding me. I didn't think anything of it. I said something like, I used to have this dream about a lizard man thing that could see through my eyes if I peeked out too soon. His color drained. And then he said, in a voice that had gone suddenly very quiet, it was like hide and seek, but I could never win. I had that dream at least once a month from ages 6 to maybe 16. And I never told anyone. Same basement, same backyard with the broken fence, same narrow kitchen, same peeling white siding. That detail had never felt important before. It was just background in the dream, till now. Until one random night, sitting in the kitchen with my dad, just talking about weird dreams over coffee, I brought it up. He froze mid-sip. Actually froze. Coffee still halfway to his mouth, eyes fixed on me like I'd just said something I wasn't supposed to know. Did that dream happen in our old house in East St. Paul? The one near the apartments? I went cold. Because I hadn't mentioned the house, but that was exactly where the dream always took place. Same hallways. I told him yes, and he said, I've had the exact same dream. There was a long silence after that. He didn't try to laugh it off or tell me I was making it up, just sat there, pale and quiet. And when I asked him to explain, he described everything. The hiding, the fear. The lizard-like creature that would see what he was seeing if he peeked out too soon, the way it never ran, just stalked him slowly from room to room. He even mentioned the same basement laundry room where I always hid in the dream. Same door, same crawl space. Calculating he'd never told me about it, and I never told him. But we had the same exact nightmare, in the same house, the same creature, waiting for us to slip up. Same feeling of being hunted by something that wasn't just chasing, it was thinking. We both stared at each other for a while, trying to process what it meant. It wasn't some shared story from childhood, and when we moved out of that place, it stopped for both of us. He said he never had the dream again after we left East St. Paul, and I didn't either, at least not like before. You know, stay hidden the whole time, never peek out, never let the things see what he saw. Maybe once or twice, but it faded. Like whatever that thing was, had stayed behind. I asked him if he ever managed to beat the dream. Didn't breathe too loudly, didn't move, said he tried. Just once, he stayed completely still. And the lizard man just stood there, not searching, not confused, just waiting. Like it knew he was there, but didn't need to find him yet. Like it could afford to wait forever. Eventually, my dad blinked. Some weird curse tied to that house, something about the land, a spirit that latched on, peeped through a crack in the closet, and that was it. The thing turned its head and started walking. I still don't know what to make of any of it. A shared delusion? All I know is, even now, I don't like thinking about it, because every time I do, I feel like it remembers me too. And if it does, if it's still out there, I really don't want it to see through my eyes again. This story was sent to us by someone named Rachel. She said she was only 7 years old when it happened. And after hearing it, I believe her. Let me tell you what she shared with me. It was the mid-1970s, and I was 7 years old. Still small enough to think my canopy bed could protect me from anything, but old enough to know when something didn't feel right. My dad was working the night shift at the Chrysler plant on Shadeland Avenue in Indianapolis, so that evening it was just me and my mom at home. The sky had already shifted into that rich blue you only see just after sunset, where the world feels like it's holding its breath before slipping into full darkness. And that window gave me a full view of the backyard and the wide-open sky beyond. I remember lying in my bed, surrounded by my stuffed animals, with my little pink and white gingham sheets tucked in around me. My mom had just said goodnight and turned off the light, leaving my door open like she always did. It moved with this odd sort of control, descending straight down from the sky, spinning as it dropped. I leaned forward on my elbows, eyes wide, staring. My bed sat right by the window. Wasn't anything fancy, just a plain wooden frame with the frilly canopy I adored. That's when I saw it. Colors blinked in a rhythm, not random, not chaotic. It reminded me of a Christmas ornament, or one of those spinning tops without the handle. Smooth, rounded edges. No seams. No noise. No blades. No rotors. I knew what helicopters looked like. This was nothing like that. First, it looked like a star falling out of place, something small and distant. But it didn't act like a star at all. It didn't have any wings. Shimmered as it spun, a kind of transparent crystalline surface that pulsed with alternating lights. Red, blue, green. And yet it hovered. Just beyond my bedroom window. I didn't scream. I didn't move. I was completely frozen. The craft didn't act like anything I'd ever seen in real life. It didn't wobble or sway. It didn't tilt like a plane trying to balance in the air. It simply paused in place, spinning and pulsing, and then it slid sideways, not curved, not angled. It moved in a perfect 90-degree line. Left, stopped, then back again to the exact spot it had hovered before. I remember feeling this strange tension in my chest. Like the moment before lightning strikes, or when you know someone's about to call your name but they haven't yet. And that's when I realized it. But I knew, in that quiet, motionless moment, it knew I was there. I could feel it. Somehow I knew it was watching me. It hadn't moved toward the house. It hadn't changed shape or done anything aggressive. Like I'd stepped into something too big for me to understand. The air felt heavier in the room. Not in a scary way at first. Just wrong. And then it vanished. Gone. One instant, it was right there, hovering past my window, and in the next, it shot straight upward. Not banking or tilting like a jet, but flying vertically into the night sky like it had been yanked away by a wire. A blur of colored lights streaked into the stars, and then nothing. Just darkness and silence. I remember calling out for my mom, but my voice felt small and distant. She didn't come. Maybe she didn't hear me. Maybe she thought I was just trying to get out of bedtime. I wanted to tell her what I saw, to get up and explain that there had been something right outside my window. But I didn't, because as I sat there, still gripping my blanket, heart racing, one thought sank into me like a stone. No one was going to believe me. I was just a kid. Every single detail of that night has stayed with me. The colors, the shape, the way it moved. That sudden awareness that it saw me. Kids have wild imaginations. But I know I wasn't dreaming. I hadn't even closed my eyes yet. I'd been fully awake. And then, years later, something strange happened. I was watching a movie, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and it's a scene where air traffic controllers track an unidentified flying object over the city of Indianapolis. And something inside me just stopped. I sat straight up. I rewound the scene, watched it again. The time, the location, the description, it matched. It all matched. Others had seen it too. Grown-ups, pilots, professionals. I wasn't alone. That same craft, that same city, that same impossible movement. All those years later, I realized I hadn't imagined it, but even now, all this time later, I still think about that night. Not because I'm afraid, but because I still wonder why it stopped outside my window, and why of all the people it could have seen, it chose to see me. This story was sent to us by someone named Daniel, and the thing that happened to him, well, it stayed with him in a way that never fully healed. Here's what he shared with me. It happened back in 2009 during Labor Day weekend. I was staying at my mom's house for a few days, while she and her boyfriend were off on a camping trip. The day had been normal, the weather mild, and everything felt quiet and that kind of slow. Empty way that suburban neighborhoods get when families go on vacation or stay inside watching TV with the AC turned up. So for that long weekend, the house was ours. Just me, my older sister, and her daughter. I was lying closest to the window that faced up toward the roof. The one where, if you looked out, you could see straight into the stars. It wasn't anything special at first. My niece had already been put to bed by the time the weird part started. She was maybe 4 at the time, out like a light in her little room down the hall. My sister and I were lying in the spare bedroom, which had once been a sunroom. It had windows covering almost every wall, the kind of windows that gave you a full view of the sky if you were lying down and looking up. We had music playing, something soft, something chill. Just 2 siblings relaxing and talking in the dark. But something about it felt off. It wasn't just brighter. It was somehow present. It didn't twinkle like the others. Instead of drifting or gliding like satellites sometimes do, it just hovered there. Not perfectly still, but gently floating in place, like it was suspended in water. That's when I noticed something strange. Then I told myself it was nothing, probably just a plane or a satellite or some kind of drone, and eventually I stopped paying attention. At first I thought it was just a star. It looked like one. A little bright point of light way up above, unmoving. I stared at it for a while, trying to make sense of it. But then my sister got up to use the bathroom, and when she came back, she walked over to the window, stood there for a second, and asked in a voice that was suddenly way too quiet, "Do you see that?" I sat up and followed her gaze. The thing I'd seen earlier, that same glowing orb, was no longer above the roof. It had moved. It was hovering between 2 trees across the street, maybe 30 feet off the ground, just floating there like it had been waiting for us to look again. It hadn't flown like a plane. It hadn't made a sound. It was just there. One moment above the house, and the next across the street between the trees. We watched it for at least 45 minutes. It glowed softly, pulsing between red, green, and white, the way Christmas lights do when you blur your eyes. It looked alive in a way I still can't explain. One minute we were looking east, the next it was west. Still hovering, still pulsing. It didn't move much, just hovered there like it was suspended by invisible wires. And then, without warning, it shifted again. Not like a helicopter or a bird. Somehow, and I still don't know how it moved from that spot between the trees to the complete opposite end of the sky. It didn't make sense. Without asking questions, he said, "Hang on," and went back inside. We ran outside to get a better view, standing in the middle of the street, our bare feet on the pavement. It was just past 1 a.m. The neighborhood was still. No cars, no breeze. It's just us and that light. And then our neighbor came out. He must have seen us standing there, staring at the sky. We pointed. He looked up. When he came back out, he was holding a pair of binoculars. We passed them back and forth, trying to get a clearer look. But even with the binoculars, we couldn't see a solid shape, just the light. Up close, it looked like it was shifting, rotating maybe, with those same pulsing colors flashing rapidly. It didn't blur or fade. It was sharp, focused, real. We watched it for a while longer, and then eventually we all just went back inside. We didn't talk about it much. I think we were too weirded out to figure out what to say. But the next morning, that's when it got stranger. I was getting ready to take a shower, shirt off, half asleep, walking past the mirror, when I noticed something on my side. It was a mark. About 3 inches long, straight as a ruler. Dark and fully healed. Not fresh, not red, not scratched or scraped. It looked like an old scar, but I had never seen it before. It wasn't there the day before. No injury, no fall, no accident. Nothing. It wasn't sore. It didn't hurt. It just was. I stood there in the mirror for 5 whole minutes trying to figure out how something like that could show up overnight. It's still there, faint now, but permanent. And I've never gotten an explanation. All I know is this: that light in the sky. Whatever it was, it moved in ways I can understand. And somehow, after watching it, it might have watched me too.